morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Global Atheist News, our weekly report on how religion has impacted humanity over the last 7 days. Dateline, the 12th of November, 2022. This week's headlines. Iran police fire on mourners at a female protester's funeral. Iran International TV channel says Iran threatened UK-based journalists. A Tik Tok video portrays scarfless women getting fist bumped and being given sweets. The Afghan female student who was injured in a suicide attack passes her university entrance exams. 100 die in a Mogadishu twin car bombing claimed by the Al-Qaeda group. Jehovah's Witnesses are about to lose their registration as a religious community in Norway. The Bishop of Oxford says church should marry gay couples. And the Bishop of Kerry apologises for the priest's sermon attacking gay people. Muslim groups push for voter engagement in the USA midterm elections. Televangelist Kenneth Copeland speaks at a Trump rally. A designer is ready for her High Court fight on excluding gay couples from her business. Turkey's secularism debate ignites after a bus driver refuses to stop for prayer. Calvin University Board votes to keep a faculty which disagrees with their stand on sex. The Qatar ambassador's comments on homosexuality are deemed harmful and unacceptable. Americans no longer view the Bible as the ultimate authority. Iranian security forces opened fire on crowds near Tehran, marking the 40th day of mourning for a woman shot dead while protesting. Videos showed thousands walking along roads to reach the grave of Hadis Najafi, who has become a symbol of the anti-government unrest in Iran. State-run media say rioters killed a militiaman and injured 10 police, but witnesses told the BBC that security forces attacked protesters with shotguns, tear gas, and machetes. The security forces were firing birdshot at people, said one person living in the area. The cemetery had been closed by security forces in anticipation of protests. However, thousands of people apparently managed to make their way around the roadblocks and converge on the site. See this video.
یه دونه لباس شخصی گرفتن دارن میزننش بزنن یا خدا ون سپاه آتیش زدن مردم نشونده.
Two British Iranian journalists for the UK-based Persian language TV channel Iran International have been warned of a possible risk to their lives. Ooh, I've been on that channel. Parent company Volant Media said the Metropolitan Police had notified the pair of a recent increase in credible threats from Iranian security forces. It denounced the escalation of a state-sponsored campaign to intimidate Iranian journalists working abroad. Iranian authorities did not respond. Last month, The Iranian government announced sanctions against Iran International and BBC News Persian, accusing them of inciting riots and supporting terrorism with their coverage of the anti-government protests that have engulfed the country over the past 2 months. The BBC and Iran International are already banned from Iran, but a press freedom watchdog says they are among the main sources of news and information in a country where independent media and journalists are constantly persecuted. Voland Media warned that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps cannot be allowed to export their pernicious media crackdown to the UK and called on the British government to join us in condemning these horrific threats and to continue to highlight the importance of media freedom. These lethal threats to British citizens on British soil come after several weeks of warnings from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and Iranian government about the work of a free and uncensored Persian language media working in London. Iran State TV tries to control the story of the protests. See this video.
چادر ما آزادی ما شجاعتی که اون لحظه با آدم دیدم یک لحظه واقعا نفهمیدم چیکار کردم و یعنی چی نمگه
State television and the internet are popular sources of news in Iran, but the reason you see two different realities on them is because these protests are among the biggest challenges that the Iranian establishment has faced in a very long time. So it's no surprise that it simply will not show them or distorts reality.
حرفایی رو گذاشتن تو زبون خواهر که مجبورش کردن این اعترافات رو بکنه.
شهید سرهنگ دوم داوود عبداللهی هفته‌ای نمی‌گذرد که مردم لرستان فرزندهای جاودانگی نثار امنیت این آب و خاک.
Her family says she died after being beaten by the morality police, who detained her over improper hijab. State television aired CCTV footage from the police to support the official version of events, that Amini suddenly lost consciousness in custody and wasn't beaten. However, the footage doesn't answer questions about what happened when she was arrested and in the police van.
On the other hand, the Iranian guards don't seem to be able to control everything. See this hijab-free video.
توی کوچه رقصیدن برای ترسیدن به وقت بوسیدن برای خواهرم خواهرت خواهرامون برای تغییر مسواک پوسیدن برای شرمندگی برای بیپولی برای حسرت یک زندگی معمولی برای کودک زبالگرد و آرزوهاش برای این اقتصاد دستوری برای این هوای آلوده برای ولیعصر و درختای فرسوده برای پیروز و احتمال انقراضش برای سگهای بیگناه ممنوعه برای گریه های بیوقفه برای تصویر تکرار این لحظه، برای چهره ای که میخنده، برای دانش آموزا، برای
An Afghan teenager who was severely injured in a suicide attack in September has passed her university entrance exams with high marks. Fatima Emiri, 17, lost an eye and sustained severe damage to her jaw and ear when the Kaj Education Center in Kabul was attacked. More than 50 people were killed and dozens injured, mostly female students who were seated in the front row near the blast. Ms. Amiri started studying again while recovering from her injuries and scored more than 85% in her exams. The students had been sitting a practice university exam when the bomber struck. Eyewitnesses said that most of the victims were girls who were seated in the front row. Ms. Amiri spoke about the impact on her. On the day of the exam, the real exam, I was affected by the Kaj attack. My eye was in pain and I couldn't see the question papers properly. She said losing her eye in the attack only made her stronger. The tasks I was not able to do with both eyes, now I will do with one eye. The death toll from twin car bombings in the Somali capital Mogadishu, claimed by al-Shabaab Islamists, has risen to 100. President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed said, so far the number of people who died has reached 100 and 300 are wounded, and the number for both dead and wounded continues to increase. Al-Shabaab, an Islamist group linked to Al-Qaeda, claimed responsibility for the attack, in which two cars packed with explosives blew up minutes apart near the city's busy Zobi intersection, followed by gunfire, saying in a statement that they had targeted the country's Ministry of Education. America is combating this violence. See this video.
Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti is the only permanent U.S. base in Africa, and our Deborah Pata got an inside look.
This may be a routine training exercise, but these Special Ops Air Combat men need to stay fighting fit. Their job is to rescue troops trapped behind enemy lines, stationed in high-risk locations like Camp Lemonnier in the East African nation of Djibouti. In the air, on land, or at sea, the 4,500-strong troops at this military base are tasked with combating the world's deadliest Al-Qaeda and ISIS organizations. You can see why it's of such strategic importance. Over there, Yemen, about 70 miles away, and just 20 miles from here in front of me, Somalia. Al-Shabaab acts with impunity in Somalia, where violent attacks have increased. ISIS networks are on the ascendancy across Africa, conflict-ravaged Ethiopia, and a shaky Sudan rocked by coups. This is one of the most volatile regions on the continent. Despite this, there's been a rebranding of America's war on terror since its chaotic departure from Afghanistan. The previous administration withdrew troops from Somalia over a year ago. President Biden says he's now fighting terrorism from over the horizon. Unmanned drones, periodic special ops raids, and training African forces. And it's here at Camp Lemonnier that approach is being put to the test. Instead of boots on the ground in places like Somalia, the war on terror is being fought from a distance. But that approach has failed to stop the growth of terrorist groups across the continent. East Africa Air Force Commander Colonel Matt Bartlett says Al-Shabaab is now one of the most well-resourced extremist organizations in the world.
The risk there would be that Al-Shabaab has a safe space, as it were, to grow the capacity and capability.
The Commander General for the Horn of Africa, William Zanner, is even more candid. Are you worried that Somalia could be harboring the next Osama bin Laden?
Sure, or something and someone worse than Osama bin Laden.
The General believes Camp Lemonnier is a modest insurance policy that can help prevent another 9/11.
Groups like Al-Shabaab's capabilities are only growing. And from my perspective, it's only a matter of time before that their stated intent, their desire is to strike the U.S. homeland.
President Biden is expected to make a decision on whether or not he's sending U.S. troops back into Somalia soon. Until then, the last thing these military leaders want is an emboldened Al-Shabaab that believes all it has to do is wait it out and wear America down like the Taliban did in Afghanistan. For CBS Mornings, Deborah Patter, Djibouti.
Jehovah's Witnesses were registered as a religious community with the state administrator of Norway back on October the 15th, 1985, and will be registered until December the 31st, 2022. However, they have been issued with this notice of loss of registration. The state administration notifies Jehovah's Witnesses that we are considering withdrawing the registration. The basis for this notice is that the conditions for grant in Section 6 of the Religious Organizations Act are not being met. Jehovah's Witnesses are given a deadline to correct the conditions that led to the rejection of this grant. If the community wants to correct the situation, it must send documents to the state administrator in Oslo and Viken within 4 weeks from the date of this letter. If we have not received the requested documentation by the end of the deadline, we will revoke your registration according to our religious community regulations. The Bishop of Oxford has said the Church of England clergy should be able to bless and marry gay couples. The Right Reverend Dr. Stephen Croft said he was sorry his views on same-sex marriage were so slow to change and had caused genuine hurt, disagreement and pain, because by law, no Church of England minister can bless or marry gay couples. And he is the most senior cleric in the Church of England to so far speak out in favour of same-sex marriage. This is highly contentious within the Church. Andrea Williams, Chief Executive of Christian Concern, said, "This is no less than apostasy. The apostolic gospel calls all people everywhere to repent, to turn away from their sins and towards Christ. Such a radical change to the nature of repentance, to the doctrine of marriage, alters the gospel itself. The archbishops now need to make clear that core teaching of the church on marriage and sexual morality is not up for debate or change. Bishops cannot be allowed to openly pronounce rank heresy." Meanwhile, in Ireland, the Bishop of Kerry, Ray Brown, has apologised for derogatory comments made by Father Sean Sheehy that resulted in over 30 parishioners walking out of Mass at St Mary's Church in Listerwell at the weekend. The Diocese of Kerry was quick to distance itself from Father Sheehy's sermon that condemned transgenderism, same-sex couples, and supplying condoms to teenagers. See this video.
You rarely hear about sin, but it's rampant. It's rampant. And we see it, for example, in the legislation of our governments. We see it in the promotion of abortion. We see it, for example, in the example of this lunatic approach of transgenderism. We see it, for example, in the promotion of sex between two men and two women. That is sinful. That is mortal sin. And people don't seem to realize it. But it's a fact. It's a reality. I was talking to a woman there a few weeks ago. Her 17-year-old daughter, who was out with her friends in Tralee, came home and she handed her mother a condom. The mother said, "Where did you get that?" She said, "An HSC van was handing these things out in Tralee." And she said, "My gracious me, that is promoting promiscuity. That is horrible, horrible."
Last week, we reported on the Souls to the Polls Christian attempt to get people to vote in the US midterm elections. The Muslims have been doing it too. Organizations like the Georgia Muslim Voter Project, Latino and Muslim Unity in Southern California, Engage, and the Council on American Islamic Relations have been reaching Muslim American voters by hosting candidate forums at mosques and knocking on household doors and holding community events to encourage early voting and voting on election day. Mohammed Missouri, the executive director of Jetpack, a non-profit that works to increase Muslim representation in US government and politics, said, "The Muslim community is recognizing more and more that at the local level, we have a massive impact on our community. The status quo isn't working for anyone, so how can we improve that?" Missouri said. The way to do it is to expand the electorate by having a local level of being really engaged and getting out new voters, he added. A Trump rally went horribly wrong when half the crowd left after Kenneth Copeland came on stage. See this video.
Trump brought up Christian televangelist lunatic Kenneth Copeland, and it got really weird.
There are things, this great state of Pennsylvania, liberty was born here. I've been accused of being a Christian nationalist. Our first president, 1789.
This is not slowed down, by the way.
This Bible, it's 17th chapter of Genesis, where God made covenant with Abraham. And he read that. And he bowed his knee.
Oh, God.
And he prayed.
Anyway, I won't play the full 2 minutes.
A Christian web designer who contends that her evangelical religious beliefs prevent her from making wedding websites for gay couples, said that her legal battle in the US Supreme Court next month is about protecting everyone's right to free speech. Laurie Smith spoke about her case, which is the latest clash over religion and LGBTQ rights to reach the nation's highest court, while sitting in the office that she uses for her design company in the Denver suburb of Littleton. The room was adorned with crosses and a wooden plaque inscribed with a line from Ephesians, "I am God's masterpiece." Smith claims that Colorado's anti-discrimination law violates her right to free speech over same-sex marriages, which she maintains are antithetical to her Christian values. A long-distance bus driver's unwillingness to stop so that a passenger could pray in Turkey has ignited a fresh debate over secularism in the predominantly Muslim country. Following the driver's refusal at the weekend, the passenger complained on Twitter, drawing a controversial response from the travel company. None of the rights defined by Turkey's constitution can be used to violate the democratic and secular conception of the republic, the bus firm said in a statement which went viral. The controversy is the latest example of a long-standing debate in a country with a Muslim majority but a secular tradition, despite the erosion of this principle under its president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Calvin University's Board of Trustees has allowed a group of faculty members to dissent from a clause in a confession of faith that regards sex outside of heterosexual marriage as sinful, thus enabling them to continue to work at the Christian school while also respecting their convictions. The board's vote on Friday to accept each of the individual faculty's statement of confessional difficulties means they may remain in good standing at the Grand Rapids, Michigan school which is wholly owned by the Christian Reformed Church, a Dutch Calvinist denomination of about 200,000 members. The school did not release the names of the number of faculties who dissented, saying those were confidential. A Qatar World Cup ambassador calling homosexuality damage in the mind is harmful and unacceptable, says Human Rights Watch. Former Qatar international Khalid Salman said that LGBTQ plus people attending the tournament should accept their rules. Homosexuality is illegal in Qatar because it is considered immoral under Islamic Sharia law. Salman said homosexuality is haram. You know what haram means? When asked why it was haram, he said, "I'm not a strict Muslim, but it's because it is damage in the mind." The interview was then stopped by an accompanying official. A recent study released by the Cultural Research Center at Arizona Christian University reveals that less than 1/3 of Americans believe that the Bible should serve as the ultimate foundation for determining right and wrong. The study notes that 7 out of 10 adults claim to support traditional moral values in America today, but there's a significant transition in the public perception of the Bible's role in defining traditional moral values. The survey revealed that traditional moral values include integrity, justice, kindness, non-discrimination, trustworthiness, free expression, public ownership, individual self-expression, and self-control. Although most people say they abide by these traditional moral values, the Bible no longer holds its place as the ultimate authority. Instead, a whopping 42% of respondents said that should lie with what you feel in your heart. This week's Free Thought Hour features author Dibby Breitenbach. We will talk about her experience as a criminal lawyer and novelist. You can join in by texting your comments and questions. It's live and it's free. Don't forget to watch Global Atheist News Review, our spin-off show where a panel of wise people get a chance to express their views on this very news. The GAN team will be back with our weekly news report next week. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and set notifications. This has been Global Atheist News. Thank you for watching.